My well wishes
My
to an
well-being
extend
might
to
have
the
Call the
changed
Mentor
during the
City
evening.
Council regular meeting for March 18th, 2025 to order. Invocation tonight will be given by Councilperson Dowling.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Okay, Julie, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Freeman? Here. Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Okay. All right, we're going to start off with the approval of minutes. Council, you are in receipt of the March 4th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, public hearings, we have none. We have two pieces of tabled legislation that it's probably time to take these off and do something with them. Going to start first, tabled legislation, ordinance number 24-0-071. Julie? Yeah, Julie, would you read that, please?
Or should we remove it from the table?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it went to three readings already.
It did. Yeah,
Did?
it did.
Just
Okay.
motion to remove from the table. It's already had three readings and.
Already?
motion for passage.
Move to remove from the
Thank you, Joe.
table.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Excuse me, Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll move on with the ordinance number 24-0-071. And Julie, if you'd read that for us. You don't have to, but,
No, I already did it, but I can do it.
Oh.
Do you want me to read it again?
If you want to, too.
okay.
And,
So we know what we're dealing with.
you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
An ordinance enacting chapters 752, sections 752.01, 752.02, 752.03, and 752.04 of Part 7 Business Regulation Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended to establish prohibitions against short-term rentals in all zoning districts and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. So council, if we've had this on our table for quite a while, if there's any questions for the law director, this is a good time to pose them. Mr. Kirchner?
I do. There's some pending legislation down in the state, is there, that's should be coming soon that deals with short-term rentals? Can you speak to that, Joe?
Yes, there was something introduced, both House and Senate bills. They were introduced, they're only in committee right now. By way of background, the state attempted to regulate short-term rentals some years ago. That measure just died in committee. So, you know, you hear things from Columbus, take it with a grain of salt as to whether or not, you know, this particular item has any legs. The overall, what it would do is it would preempt all municipal control over short-term rentals, regulate them pursuant to state law, so that local communities would not be permitted to prohibit them in any residential district. And in addition, there are some other, and again, there's competing legislation, but generally it would, in some instance, and one measure would require imposition of a lodging tax and all sorts of things. Takeaway is they would try to strip local control. Now, is that in harmony with the Home Rule Amendment? I won't make any public comment on that, but it is something that I would strongly suspect would pull a legal challenge from cities and villages throughout the state. As of now, though, it is just in committee.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes. Ms. Dowling?
seeing as it's been sitting on the table since October, Joe, could you just give us a little bit of a tutorial on what a yes vote means and what a no vote would mean?
A yes vote would create a brand-new class of regulations under the business regulations code, so outside the zoning code. Currently, if you look at the zoning code, and ties in a little bit to the companion legislation 072, the only place in the zoning codes that references short-term rentals as being a permitted use are in two types of the overlay zoning. It doesn't appear as a permitted use or conditionally permitted use in any other zoning district. So companion legislation 072, if council desires, would strike the permissive use of short-term rentals in those old overlay zoning classifications as well. The other item that's come up periodically is in the zoning code, the renting of rooms is a conditionally permitted use. So you come to the planning commission, you say, here's what I want to do. And so we have seen some instances where individuals thought, well, I'd like to do a short-term rental under the auspices of renting of rooms. So that probably would in fact leave the door open. We've never considered it closed in terms of short-term rental being a species of renting of rooms. So in companion with 071, if council finds that favorable, the amendments to 072 would also strike the conditional use of renting of rooms, in addition to striking short-term rentals as a permitted use in the overlay zones. And again, if council desires not to do that, then obviously a no vote would continue the status quo.
Thank you, Joe. Ken, anything you'd like to add?
Not this evening. I think, the administration offered some suggestions on what might go into a model policy, or some of the ideas that I know that this council has suggested might be worth pursuing if you decide to regulate this in a further fashion, as Mr. Zeman had suggested. We're happy to assist with that. I think we had a great discussion at your last work session on this topic. And really, we can offer any examples that you might want to move forward with. But, in terms of the administration's position on this, I think it would be helpful to clarify what the rules are, because I think, as was pointed out early on in this discussion, it seems to be somewhat unclear in our present code.
Thank you. Council.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 24-0-071 has been approved. And I think we'd need a motion to remove ordinance number 24-0-072 from the table as well.
So moved.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
You're up.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay. Julie, would you please read that ordinance for us
Why, sure.
so that everybody's clear?
An ordinance amending sections 1157.02 and 1158.05 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended by replacing all provisions related to renting of rooms and short-term rentals and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
No, sir. I'm sorry. No, sir, unless...
Covered it pretty,
I think so, but of course, if members of council have additional questions, we'll be happy to elaborate at any points.
okay. Hearing none. Ken, anything to add to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 24-0-072 has been approved. Moving on to new legislation, ordinance number 25-0-025.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to CC Construction, Inc. for the 2025 concrete road repair program and declaring an emergency.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. This is our annual concrete portion of our road program. I'll turn this over to Mr. Swigger in a second, but I know that we've had some discussion among several council members already about what this winter has done to our roads. So we do expect that our road program is going to get a little bit bigger. I think once we start hitting the warm weather and stride, we'll be able to get a better evaluation of what is necessary. But this is our base contract, and any additions to this would be based on a quantity basis going forward. So, Mr. Swigger?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. 4 bids were opened on Monday, February 24th for the 2025 Concrete Road Repair Program. The project will provide full-depth concrete repairs to portions of 14 city streets. The bid package consisted of a base bid and 3 bid alternates. The streets included in the base bid are Snowberry Court, Kellogg Creek, Justin Way, Bishop Court, Fillmore Court, Cornwall, Garden Lane, Catherine Court, Leah, Center Street, Heisley Road, and Munson Road. Quantities bid under alternate 1 will be utilized for work within Menor on the Lake, and that value is at about $50,000. The quantities within alternates 2 and 3 are for repairs to be performed on Sandtree Lane, Cherrystone Drive, and Omega Court. The 4 bids received for the base bid and alternates 1, 2, and 3 range from a low bid of approximately $950,000 to a high bid of approximately $1.1 million. It's been determined that TC Construction Incorporated of Willoughby Hills, Ohio, submitted the lowest total bid of $950,350. The engineer's opinion of probable construction costs for the project was $1,064,350. And a review of the bid from TC Construction indicates it's in conformance with all contract requirements. Their unit price bid of $95 per square yard was very similar to last year's bid. They were the concrete contractor who did the work in last year's program, and they were within about 50 cents of last year's bid. Thank you.
Okay. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 25-0-025 has been approved. Next is ordinance number 25-0-026.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with Prescription Fitness LTD, DBA Butler Fitness for various personal training services to be offered at the Menor Community Recreation Center and declaring emergency.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. And council, this is our efforts to try to bring more services to those who are members and guests at our recreation center. Mr. Kaminsky.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak, members of council. The Parks and Recreation Department is requesting permission to enter into a 2-year contract with Prescription Fitness for offering various personal training services focused on the patrons of the recreation center to achieve fitness and wellness goals. Services may include one-on-one training, small group training, nutritional training, fitness assessment, lifestyle coaching, and specialty training. Prescription Fitness Limited is currently working in 9 other municipal recreation centers, and the Parks and Recreation Department is recommending approval. Thank you.
Okay. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes.
how will this conflict at all with our current members? In other words, if somebody goes in and is paying for this service, will they conflict with the use of the machines or any of the equipment?
No.
In other words, you know what I'm talking about. I show up as a resident, I want to use the machine, but now this company is in there with getting paid for another person to use it. Am I knocked out then, or?
No, they would have to wait their turn just like everyone else does. It would be just like if you would go in during the busy time and a piece of equipment that was in use, you would wait until that was done before the next person got on it.
Okay,
And we have enough equipment in all 3 of the areas to be able to accommodate this quite easily.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes,
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
yes,
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 25-0-026 has been approved. Next is resolution number 25-R-104.
A resolution of the Council for the City of Mentor, Ohio, supporting the renewal of the State Capital Improvement Program on the May 6, 2025 statewide ballot and declaring an emergency.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council, what this would do is just simply lend your support to the efforts of the state of Ohio to renew the State Capital Improvement Program, otherwise known as Issue 2. It always has appeared as Issue 2 on the state ballot. This is renewed every 10 years. And I believe this is the fourth renewal because we'll be going into round 40. Is that correct, Mr. Swicker? I believe that is the case.
I believe so, yeah.
And so this will be on the May ballot. We encourage our residents to support this. These are actually monies that are gained through bonding by the state. So it's authorizing bonding for the next 10 years. To give you some idea of how important this has been and how beneficial it's been to our community, just in the last 10-year rounds, we've received over $8 million on 23 different projects. So we've been very successful. Many of those are road projects, predominantly road and storm sewer projects over the years. So we encourage council to support this, and we encourage our residents to vote yes on this on the May ballot.
Yeah, definitely worth supporting, certainly. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 25-R-104 has been approved. Next is resolution number 25-R-105.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to prepare and submit a grant application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Urban Forestry Grant Program for $100,000 in financial assistance to hire a company to evaluate, trim, remove, and replace trees in the Old Menor neighborhood and declaring an emergency.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President. Even though we had a chair available for Mr. Grippy, he didn't choose to take advantage of that. So if you could come up to the podium, Mr. Grippy, and explain this grant to our council.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak, and thank you, council. This is a great opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. This is a great opportunity for us. It's a 100% grant, no match, from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And to define the area for everybody, this area has been defined by ODNR as the Old Menor neighborhood, and that is between Route 84 and Route 20, from the Great Lakes Mall to the western city limits. And that's a designation they came up with through demographics, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us. However, I must warn council that it's federal money that's being passed through ODNR, so this could possibly be cut. It could land on the chopping block. But I want to be prepared and go ahead and submit the application when it's being accepted. In order to do that, we need council authorization to do it. That's it.
And, Matt, this is that area that was hit by a tornado
Tornadoes, yeah.
some years ago.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
Maybe-
it goes through. Thanks.
maybe that will keep the trees off the power lines.
Yeah. Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 25-R-105 has been approved. Second readings, we have none. Also, third readings, we have none. Managers report. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Council, we have one open cut pavement request at 5025 Lakeview Drive. This is from Aqua, Ohio, for the establishment of a new water service connection.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, council. Council, I didn't actually have this in my report, but I'll bring it up now since Mr. Grippy mentioned the uncertainty of federal appropriations either going forward, and in our case, those that we thought were committed. We did receive word through Congressman Joyce's office that the $1.7 million request that we had that successfully got through committee was not included in the latest continuing resolution of Congress that was adopted. That runs through September, so it's not expected that we will probably be receiving that under any past funding formulas and approvals that were put in place. We've been encouraged to resubmit that this month as part of ongoing discussions that I believe will be part of the regular budget process that they are promising will go forward, which again, funds of which likely wouldn't be committed into, at the earliest until October. So a little disappointing, not unexpected. There's a lot of uncertainty with projects that were funded in the past or that have long-term funding in place. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But we will be resubmitting that project through his office within probably the next week.
And Ken, what was that project again?
That was the $1.7 million for the shoreline stabilization. That was going to be part of the due diligence and
Yes.
a good portion of the preliminary design for a final project on that. So disappointing because we were kind of counting on that to be able to move that project forward. So we'll be getting back with council to talk about options on how and how quickly we want to proceed. So
Exactly.
we'll keep you informed on that. City of Mentor has only 10 event sponsorships opportunities available for 2025. Most of our events are hosted free of charge and will not be possible without the support of our corporate sponsors. Sponsorships are accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. Commitments must be confirmed by 5 p.m. this Friday, March 21st, so we're coming to a deadline. And persons interested can download the 2025 Mentor Event Sponsorship Packet on our website for more details. Council, we've been realizing many more scams targeting seniors recently. In fact, our Mentor detectives are receiving an average of 2 to 3 reports a week of different scams happening in our city. Scams happening in every community. They're just really ramping up. Our police department encourages people to protect themselves from scammers by just hanging up. So I know a lot of people, especially seniors, feel as though they have a responsibility to listen to people, but really we just tell people to just hang up if there's any concern. Also, if you're ever in doubt, to reach out to a trusted friend or relative involved, or call the Mentor Police Department in order to assure yourself that this might be problematic. City of Mentor's 2025 yard waste collection program will begin on April 7th and will run through the second week in December. Collection is limited to 12 units per week from April through the third week of October, and that increases to 25 units per week for the last full week of October through December 12th. More information on that can be found on the city's website. A&J Cement will be saw cutting sidewalks along Sweet Hollow Drive and Stone Mill Drive. They will start removing and replacing concrete slabs on April 7th, so our sidewalk program is getting back up and running. And then finally, Council, we do have several new businesses in town to report upon. Regano, I hope I'm saying that right, it's either Regano or Regano Financial Services at 8827 Mentor Avenue. Nova Manufacturing has also added some new space at 7520 Clover Avenue, so we applaud their expansion. Awan Medical Supply at 7547 Mentor Avenue. Ian's Hometown Barbershop at 9179 Mentor Avenue. Virtual Game Show at 7466 Tyler Boulevard. And Jim & Sons Barbershop at 7461 Center Street. So we thank them for their investment in our city and wish them great success.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Moving on, clerk's correspondence. Julie.
Council's in receipt of a liquor permit, a new one for Atlas Cinemas Great Lakes Mall, Inc., DBA Atlas Cinemas Great Lakes Stadium 16 at 7860 Mentor Avenue. And council is also in receipt of the Mentor Municipal Court month-end report for February 2025. That is all.
Thank you. Commission committee reports. Council, you are in receipt of the meeting minutes of the Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, February 11th, 2025. Moving on, old business, Council. Hearing none, new business. We're moving quick tonight. Okay, next up is a section, persons before council. As always, please be very respectful, no personal attacks, and realize that you have 4 minutes, and when you come up to the podium, please give your name, your address, and we'll start off with Jean King. Name, address, and 4 minutes.
Jean King, 8447 Trimble Court, Mentor. Well, I'm back. 4 minutes isn't very much time. First, I wanted to give you an update on the issue of term limits. I mentioned last time that opinion polls consistently indicated 80% of people support term limits. So far, I'm finding 100% of people in Mentor think that term limits for city council are a great idea. Willoughby City Council members can only serve 8 years. Since I'm just beginning to try to understand how Mentor city government works, I started looking into this unusual city manager, city council business. I say unusual for 2 reasons. One is that the only other cities around that don't elect a mayor are Ashtabula and Painesville. Secondly, the city manager form of government was intended to be used by small villages. Of the 1,259 cities in Ohio, Mentor is ranked 24th in population with about 46,599 residents. Guess who appoints the city manager? City council. Oh, by the way, he's been the city manager for going on 16 years. City council has an incredible amount of power. I voted in every election for nearly the past 50 years. I've lived in Mentor for 10 years, but I have never voted for any of you on city council. Why bother? The vast majority of the time, no one is foolish enough to waste his or her time and resources to run against an incumbent city council member. When you look at other cities in the area, almost always there are 2 candidates running against one another for city council seats. We, on the other hand, have had few choices and therefore little interest in city council for years and years. The other problem is that voter turnout is very low. In the November 2021 election, when Marne last ran for at-large city council, all 3 at-large candidates ran uncontested. Only 14% of registered voters cast a ballot for Marne. He received 216 and 217 fewer votes than Mrs. Dowling and Mr. Kirschner, respectively. Interesting. We Mentorites leave a lot for city council to decide. We have very, very little power as residents. This is my 6th city council meeting, and I'm figuring out how it all works. These fellows over here come up with ways to spend our tax dollars, and the people over here say yes. $2 million pool slide? Yes. Tear down all the buildings around the pool and build new ones. Why not? That fancy new storage building at Wildwood had a purchase order totaling $732,947. Don't get me started on the money spent at Springbrook Gardens Park. It wouldn't be quite so bad if you would take care of what you have, rather than continuing to buy all these shiny new toys. For example, have you been to Wildwood, described as the jewel of Mentor in one of your glossy brochures? Nobody goes there. What a mess, inside and out, except, of course, for the new storage building. Have you been to the Mentor Dog Park? If you love your dog, don't go there. It's a brownfield of waste and disease. The big question is, why should we trust a city council to run our city when for years they have tolerated Marne's bad behavior? As a first step, 5 of you voted to pass a resolution seeking Marne's resignation. One of you likes to avoid accountability by abstaining from voting. Now we're all waiting for you to take the next step to remove Marne from office. It's time to make some major changes in Mentor.
Thank you. Next is Brian Mansfield. Name, address, 4 minutes, please.
My name is Brian Mansfield. I'm at 9190 Pleasant Vale Court, Mentor, Ohio. You gave this podium as a way for the community to give you feedback, voice their concerns, and get a sense of who the community is. So I came here to voice my opinion over a problem that Mentor City Council created. As I was leaving the podium, one of the council members said, "Who even cares?" I thought, okay, don't overreact. So I emailed and asked them to clarify this statement. Nothing. So there you go. You don't really care. But you know who does care? The voters in that community. The people that came with me from that community to support each other. The woman in the back crying her eyes out because she's being foreclosed on by the person that Mentor City Council endorsed. And you know what the kicker is? She's never missed a payment. Also, as I was leaving, one chuckled, "That was so long ago." Yes, it was. In fact, this July is the 5-year anniversary for when you endorsed these people. You know what other anniversaries are coming up? It will also be 5 years that no accountants have seen the finances, no audits, no one other than the endorsee has ever seen the bank accounts. It only took her months to steal $15,000 from a car dealership. Imagine what is going on with $1.2 million running through her fingers completely unchecked for 5 years. Here's another anniversary coming up. It's now been 2 years that the woman being foreclosed on has been fined $150 a day. A day. Let's just calculate that. Beep, boop, bop, bop, bop. That's $54,000 a year. 2 years, that's $109,000. Her condo's not even worth that, but that was such a long time ago. And here's the kicker. To keep others in line over there, they tell people that she's going to come over to their home and beat up old people. Now, where have I heard that before? Is that something taught at an endorsement school? Now you're probably wondering why I'm still addressing the entire council. You are all together. You're a group of 7. You cannot do anything by yourself. You need all 7. Just one of you cannot create a resolution and vote on it and pass it. You need all 7 and a majority at that. So when one of you go rogue and endorse convicted felons, you are all doing it. If you don't speak up and stop the councilman from doing it, you're condoning their actions. I mean, are you going to create a resolution and pass it to protect yourself from that council member like you did last week? You'd be passing resolutions every week. You're all tied together. You didn't even bother to do any background checks on these people, yet you as council members have to go through a background check. It's not your job to be endorsing people. There's been 7 people for our private community election. That's like 7 squares of toilet paper. I came here to get a dialogue started. Heck, I even thought I might get an apology, or you would apologize to the community for what you did. Instead, I got who cares. Here's an idea. You can start by publicly withdrawing your endorsement. That sounds like a good idea no matter what else you do. And lastly, have some respect for the people that address you at this podium, because they are the ones that voted you in. And have some respect for this podium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
this is the second time this gentleman's come up before us and said that we endorse somebody. And I want to make it clear, this councilman didn't endorse anybody. And I don't even know who he's talking about, but this councilman didn't endorse anybody. And I can't speak for the rest of this council, but
Yeah, you can.
anyways,
Thank you.
All right.
move to adjourn.
Second.